Next up is the 9th domain in Assassin's Creed Shadows. This time, the challenges don't seem too daunting. Interestingly, the very first challenge doesn't work well with the Eviscerate ability, so I had to replace it with Guardbreaker. Everything else in my build remains unchanged. This time, the Whiteout location was generated. Interestingly, after the 8th domain, this one actually seemed even easier to me. I don't know why that happened. Perhaps the challenges generated before the trial are the deciding factor. The location has plenty of bushes where you can hide and set up an ambush for enemies. As always, I take out most of the enemies using an Assassinate from stealth. The first Dashio I encountered, as usual, has a lot of health, so the Assassinate only takes away a portion of it. Next, I decide to try a direct fight with the enemy to get a sense of what to expect from the encounter. Overall, it went pretty well. The victory was actually kind of funny. I accidentally knocked over a powder keg and we both blew up on it. I need to be more careful. Next, you'll see another challenge in action. Additional enemies appear randomly throughout the level. This time, one popped up right in front of me, and I had no trouble taking it down. The final arena is accessible almost from the start of the level, and to reach the other Dashios, you'll need to climb up the wall. By the way, there's another way around it. Overall, the area is straightforward and not overloaded with complicated paths. It's easy to navigate here and spot enemies, and I really appreciate the abundance of places to hide. All you have to do is draw the enemy's attention, run back to a hiding spot, and you can take out the enemies one by one. This makes progressing through the first part of the domain quite simple. Next up is the 2nd domain Dashio, and I decide not to engage him in direct combat. I'll use the tactic of a timely retreat. Then I'll return to this enemy and, on my second attempt, easily defeat him with a surprise attack. This is the best way to quickly defeat enemies and avoid getting bogged down in direct combat for too long. I used a similar strategy to defeat the 3rd Corrupted Dashio, but this time, I used my kunai. Regular enemies go down with a single strike, but one throw isn't enough for the red enemy. I throw the kunai and run to hide from the enemy. Then, when combat mode ends, I turn around and throw the kunai again to defeat the 3rd Dashio. Overall, I face a lot of enemies in this domain. Some of them appear even in areas I've already cleared, so you have to be careful and keep an eye on what's happening around you. But by using the skills I'd mastered in previous domains, the first part of this challenge seemed pretty easy to me. It's simple here. You just need to plan your actions carefully and take out the enemies one by one. Next up is the final battle. It's business as usual here, but a little more challenging than the previous trials. I need to defeat 4 waves of enemies. Each subsequent wave adds 1 more enemy. The first wave, accordingly, has only 1 enemy. Here, I decided to demonstrate how the Eviscerate ability, when used, inflicts a bleed effect on me, forcing me to run away from the enemy for a long time until this debuff wears off. That's exactly why I replaced this ability with Guardbreaker. With this attack combination, I can take on the final enemies without worrying about my own debuffs. There are absolutely no problems with the first enemy, you'll just defeat him. The second wave of enemies consists of 2 opponents, and here the situation is a bit more complicated. In general, I went into more detail about the tactics for dealing with the 4 waves of enemies in the video for the 6th domain. If you want, you can watch that video. The link to it will appear in the top right corner shortly. I'll also include a link to it in the description for this video. The first 2 opponents still feel more like a warm-up for the 3rd wave of enemies, which is going to be really tough. In this trio, Yuki no Kata is the most challenging opponent for me. She uses a Naginata, and her jumping attacks cover a large area where you can take damage even if you're using an ability against another enemy at that moment, but happen to be within the range of her attack. That's exactly why you need to take her out first. The task is complicated by the fact that only one ability, Tidal Wave, is effective against Yuki no Kata. The enemy simply dodges your other abilities, causing you to waste your accumulated adrenaline. You also need to make sure there are no other enemies nearby when you attack Yuki no Kata, as they too can damage you while you're busy attacking. So the battle drags on. I deliberately shortened the video so as not to bore you with a long, monotonous fight. But that's exactly what it is, long and monotonous. You attack and then retreat until your ability cooldown is over. Also, don't forget about the semi-transparent samurai who periodically appears in the arena. He fires one shot from a rifle or 2 shots from a bow. If you see this enemy, try to get behind him so you don't take damage from his shots. Throughout the entire final battle, every time I spot this semi-transparent archer, I pause what I'm doing and try to get behind him. That's a safe spot. Of course, you can't stop there, or the other enemies will catch up to you. You need to keep moving constantly. Once Yuki no Kata is down to 2 enemies, it's a simple task. You still need to be careful here, but everything is much easier and faster. Here I use a series of attacks. First the tidal wave ability, then the guard breaker ability. But at the same time, you need to keep an eye on the other opponent if he's very close and winding up for a strike. It's better to interrupt your attack and retreat. Ahead lies the most difficult part of this challenge, the 4th wave, where 4 enemies will fight you at once. If you've successfully made it through the 3rd wave of enemies, the 4th wave won't be much harder. In fact, your strategy is essentially the same as what you did against the 3rd wave. First, you need to defeat Yuki no Kata using the tidal wave ability. This time, it's a little harder to keep track of the other enemies, since there's one more of them. But they move almost identically, so they're always grouped together. This makes your task easier. You'll need to stay fully focused here. To be honest, the entire final battle, all 4 waves of enemies, took me about 15 minutes of real time. It's a long fight. I just tried to be as cautious as possible and retreated whenever I encountered a dangerous situation. Sometimes it's better to retreat early and take less damage than to find yourself in a difficult situation where a single enemy strike could undo all your efforts. It's also worth mentioning the opponent Marume Nagayoshi. His attacks aren't complicated, and he generally doesn't pose much of a problem. But there is one challenge. He's also very good at dodging the guard breaker ability, so you can only use tidal wave against him. And this, once again, significantly increases the time it takes to finish the entire battle. Although everything is simple and repetitive, you'll be tempted to linger longer and deal more damage. Don't give in to that temptation. Land a few simple strikes after tidal wave and retreat immediately. The path to victory lies in your ability to control the flow of the fight and your own emotions. Be patient, and you'll definitely defeat them all. When there's only one enemy left, you know victory is within reach. Here, you can use 2 abilities again, first tidal wave, then guard breaker, so the final battle will be much shorter. That's all you need to beat the 9th domain in Assassin's Creed Shadows. As always, I'll leave a link to my build in the comments. If you found this video useful, please like it and subscribe to the channel. I also recommend watching my other videos on Assassin's Creed Shadows, where I explain many interesting things. I'm sure you will find a lot of interesting stuff there. See you soon, my friend, and take care.